to Inside Personal Growth Podcast. Deep dive with us as we unlock the secrets to personal development, empowering you to thrive. Here, growth isn't just a goal, it's a journey. Tune in, transform, and take your life to the next level by listening to just one of our podcasts. Well, welcome back to Inside Personal Growth. This is Greg Voisen, the host of Inside Personal Growth. And joining me from close to Little Rock, Arkansas, or you're in Little Rock, Arkansas, is Dr. Sabrina Starling, Starling, and she's the author of some really great selling books that we're going to be talking about today. Sabrina, good day to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Greg. I'm excited to be here and to share this with business owners. We're going to help them take their lives back from their business.
Definitely are. And I'm going to let them know a little bit about you so that they know your degree of professionalism in doing this. And they can actually reach out to you at tapthepotential.com. That's one site. They also can go to Dr. Sabrina Starling, STARLING.com. But go to tapthepotential.com. There you'll learn more about her programs, her assessment, and we're going to be giving you one away here in a bit during this podcast. So we'll go from there. Well, Dr. Starling is known as the business psychologist, is an international best-selling author and transformational speaker. She's been on TEDx and who's revolutionized how we think about our work and success. She's the author of two acclaimed book series, The 4-Week Vacation, not like a Tim Ferriss, but this is the 4-Week Vacation, and the How to Hire the Best series. As a third generation in her family impacted by entrepreneur hustle culture, Dr. Sabrina is on a mission to transform the narrative of success from grinding it out with long hours to creating work that supports and enhances life. Her groundbreaking work has reached also, or she's had research with over 650 entrepreneurs that are high-performing teens and led to innovative workplace concepts that include the 4-week vacation, $10,000 an hour activities, and 25-hour workdays and unlimited vacation policies.
25-hour work weeks.
Work weeks.
Not work days.
Oh, sorry. That's a Freudian slip.
That would be awful.
25-hour work weeks and unlimited vacation policies. As I said, she's the founder of Tap Your Potentials. He hosts a globally top-ranked Profit by Design podcast. So that's Profit by Design podcast. Her work is featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur.com, Thrive Global, and all over. And again, check out her websites and her. Well, Sabrina, the reality is that people in today's world, they are all kind of working very hard, as we know, and I think even more so since COVID. So how did you get into this, and why is it such a passion of yours? And, obviously we're talking about two books here, so for our listeners, we'll try and keep it so that you understand which book we're speaking about. But this philosophy about work supports life, not the other way around. I want you to elaborate on that and how this became such a passion for you.
Absolutely. So I was fresh out of graduate school and I was working in a community mental health center in rural Wyoming, and there wasn't enough of me or my fellow team members to go around. And I was coming home at the end of really long days, taking on call overnight. And I would just flop on my couch and feel like I have nothing left to give. And I was acutely aware that my clients who were seeing me at 8 o'clock in the morning were having a very different experience with me than my clients who were seeing me at 6 or 7 in the evening. And I didn't feel good about that. And so I really, after 5 years of just grinding it out, hustling, I stepped back and I asked myself, what do I want? And immediately what bubbled up to the surface is I want to be the best human being that I can be for my family and for my clients. And so from there, I started thinking about, well, what do I really need to be the best version of me in all of my interactions with the people who matter most to me? And what I was very clear on is I could do a 25-hour work week, and that would allow me to be fully present with my clients that I'm working with and come home and have something left to give to my family and have really good aspects of me left to give to my family. And so I set out as I built my own coaching business to follow a 25-hour work week.
Mhm.
And I might have been a little naive at the time, thinking, I'm just going to set my time at 25 hours and grow this business around that. Um, but I learned very quickly that limits force innovation and creativity. And so when my first daughter was born, I was only willing to take her to a babysitter for 25 hours a week. I didn't want her, I wanted to be a part of her life. And 25 hours felt like the right number. And so as I was growing this business and raising an infant, it was overwhelming to try to get everything that needed to be done to grow a business into 25 hours a week. And so one day I just had a complete meltdown, right? And it felt like it was a self-imposed meltdown because I'm like, okay, I only want to work 25 hours a week, but there's not enough hours in my day to get everything done. And after, crying really hard and some big ugly tears, I had this clarity come over me. And it was really a question of, okay, Sabrina, if you can only get one thing done today that's going to move this business forward, what is it? And I knew that answer. Like I knew what I needed to do. And so I went and I did it. And at the end of the day, I still had this incredibly long list of to dos, but I had peace because I knew I had done the one thing that was the highest value activity that was going to grow the business over time.
Mhm.
And so the next day I came into the office, same scenario, completely overwhelmed and like there's so much to do. And I thought, okay, breathe. And that question you asked yourself yesterday worked really well. So let's try it again today. What's the one thing that I can do that will move the business forward? So I started working in that way, and I started thinking about that time as my $10,000 an hour activity, because as you might imagine, Greg, when you only have 25 hours a week and you have clients and you're desperate to grow our business, so like you want to get cash in the door, it's very easy to give away all your time to based on client need and not do anything to grow the business. And so when I shifted and I started thinking about that time is more valuable than me sitting in front of a client because that's what's going to grow this business over time and allow us to serve lots of clients over the years. And so it helped me to block my time on the calendar that way because I would protect it when I saw that.
Right.
But the other thing that happened in there is Gary Keller wrote a really good book called The One Thing, and he has an elegant version of this question, and it's what is the one thing I can do such that everything else will be easier or unnecessary? And I started thinking in that way, and as I was working on my $10,000 an hour activities and I was coaching small business owners, I saw us all struggle with the same thing. Like we are stretched to the max. But when we start thinking about, okay, if I can't get anything else done today, what is the one thing I can do that will make everything else easier or unnecessary and make sure that gets done? And if we're doing that the majority of our time, like 80% of our time, big things happen over time.
Yeah,
And
that's like moving the big rocks, right? I mean, there's some philosophies out there, and so the thing I have a question for you as being a psychologist is, you know, whether it's Marshall Goldsmith who's been on the show or whoever, people who are achievers, that's who you're working
Mhm.
for. The first question comes to mind is when is enough enough? And then when you get people to a 3-day work week, which would be 24 hours, you say 25. But
Yeah.
but when you get them to that, okay, you create this void. And
Mhm.
what those kind of people try and do is automatically fill that void with more work. So, as the psychologist, how do you actually coach people out of wanting to constantly fill this emptiness with
Mhm.
something because you've given them the systems, you know how to hire the best people, you got people behind you, you put all this stuff in place. But the reality then becomes is, hey, guess what, madam, sir, we've got you down to 25 hours a week and where you're taking your 4-week vacation. Now what?
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good question. I we ha it is a void, it is uncomfortable to take time off. Taking time off in the evenings, like just turning your phone off and learning how to be fully present with yourself and with others is uncomfortable because we are so used to the
We're
adrenaline.
programmed.
Yeah, and we have to recognize we have been hardwired now for a number of years to be glued to our phone and to get those dopamine hits whenever we see notifications and respond. But that's not moving the needle forward. And so I think what's really important to pay attention to is what is our passion and what is our purpose? Because when we fill that void by being fully present with ourselves and fully present with those who matter most to us, we start to see and tune into what are the things that I enjoy about what can I be doing with my family? What can I be doing with myself? What can I be doing in the community that gives me a sense of purpose and feeling like I matter?
Mhm.
And that's really the big question. And as long as we are hustling and we are building and making money, we don't have to pay attention to that existential question of why am I here? Why do I matter? But as soon as we stop hustling, that question comes to the forefront and it's very uncomfortable. So our temptation is just go back. Let's go build something else. If I got this business over here running well, let me go build another business.
Right, which has, as you say, it has a tendency, but if I can replace with higher value emotional activity, my purpose-based work,
Mhm.
whether it's my own charity, in my case, I've got my own charity, or it's working for a charity, or it's finding something. Again, it's about doing versus being. Most people aren't going to go into a cave in India and meditate for a year and come out of the cave and say, hey, I'm now an enlightened being, right? That isn't, most people. What most people want to do is stay active. And I think it's an important thing that you bring up is because I say it's a higher value emotional activity than the activity that you do kind of building the business. Although, you're getting those endorphin releases every time you have a win in business. That is it. And I want to kind of shift a little bit because you touch on, and obviously you've written 2 books that are very complementary, and the other one is How to Hire the Best.
Mhm.
And so this now comes into, well, if I'm only working 3 days a week or 2, I got to tackle this number one challenge that entrepreneurs face, which is attracting and retaining A players. We call them A players. But what's the most common mistake small business owners make in hiring process? And what's one brutal truth you wish every entrepreneur understood about building a team?
So the most common mistake is we try to hire mini me's,
Right?
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 And we think because we wear all the hats in the business that we are doing everything wonderfully, and we're not. We all have strengths and weaknesses. And so one of the lessons that I learned is as I started delegating, because I needed to do that to get my work week down to 25 hours, is that I needed to delegate things that were not my strength. And I needed to hire people who had strengths that I don't possess. And so when we get really clear on a role that we're hiring for in our business, and if the person in that role can only get one thing done in a given day or a given week, what is the highest value activity that they can do that drives profit and pertains to the sweet spot of the business? So we have to get super clear on what those results are. And then we want to hire for the strengths needed to deliver those results exceptionally well day in and day out. And so this goes right back to the $10,000 an hour thinking. Every role in the business has an opportunity to do $10,000 an hour work.
Mhm.
Because when we are working from our strengths and we are adding value by making other things easier or unnecessary for ourselves or others, we are doing $10,000 an hour work. So the person who checks my emails and responds and does my calendaring, that is $10,000 an hour work because it frees me up to do higher value activities and it makes everything else easier or unnecessary. And so when we hire A players, and by the way, I want to give a definition of an A player so we're all on board on the same page. An A player is someone who is highly motivated. They are a problem solver and their motivation comes from inside. So they're intrinsically motivated. They are not motivated by bonuses, salaries, and rewards. As soon as we start trying to get people for with bonuses, salaries, and rewards, we are missing the A players. A
Mhm.
players want to grow. They want opportunities for advancement, and it's all this intrinsic desire to grow and to be better. Most of us and those listening, we're A players because we listen to podcasts to improve ourselves, right? And that's intrinsically motivated. Nobody is saying, "You get a bonus for listening to this podcast today." It comes from inside. And so we want to attract those people, and when we get clear on what our core values are as human beings, the top 3 to 5, what I call immutable laws, and we hire people who are A players who hold similar immutable laws to us, we are able to delegate and let go and trust that things will be handled in a way that we feel good about because no matter how systematized a business gets, there will always be something that comes up in our absence that we have no system or process for. And that A player is going to have to figure it out. Well, if you've hired people who hold similar values as you, they will handle it in a way that you feel good about.
So you have these 2 books, and the one book that you have is about the 4-week vacation, right?
Yes.
And so we all know that when people vacation, they have an opportunity to go into this great creative mode, right? It's an opportunity for us to get away from this. But 4 weeks isn't usually the normal amount of time that people are going to take. And if I fully unplugged for 4 weeks, which I don't even think I've ever done, but now that I've got your book, I want to do that. What is it that's going to actually happen to us when we fully unplug and take this time off?
So here's the big kicker, Greg. The 4 weeks is not about the 4 weeks vacation. The 4 weeks gives us as human beings time to detox from the business and being fully plugged in all the time. And we have to learn how to be comfortable with ourselves. And it doesn't matter if we take go sit on the beach and sip margaritas for 4 weeks. Most people don't want to do that for 4 weeks, maybe 3 days is about the most people like to do that for. Um, the 4 weeks is really about that time to fully unplug and to let your brain rest and to see what bubbles up, and you will find your problem solving, your creativity is heightened after that 4-week detox. But it's not so much about us as it is what happens in the business when we're gone for 4 weeks. So, it allows our team members to step up and show what they are capable of. When we stay in the busyness, we're creating glass ceilings in our business for our A players. When we step out of the way, they are able to show, look what I did, look what I can accomplish. And then the worst thing we can do when we come back is to take all those duties back because we don't want to burden them. We don't want to overwork them. So we're going to take it all back. Now, it was great to be gone for 4 weeks, but now we're going to take it all back. That's the worst thing we can do because what it says to them is, I don't think you can handle this long term. Yeah, you did fine for a few weeks, but you're not capable to do this long term. So the rule of thumb is when you delegate, you don't take it back. And the wonderful thing that happens is the 4 weeks is enough time for the business, most businesses, to go through a complete business cycle of marketing, selling, delivering a service, collecting payment. And if a business can do all of that without the owner's involvement, you have increased the value of your business exponentially.
Mhm.
Now you have a sellable business. And a lot of business owners, once they've taken a 4-week vacation, realize they don't want to sell their business because they have a really cool business now that can run without them. They can work 20, I work 10 hours a week, sometimes less on average now. And the business continues to grow without me. That is a business that has value, and then you become a business owner who is no longer trapped in hustle culture. You are a business owner at choice.
Well, as a psychologist, you know this, that obviously the owners who found businesses because of their curiosity, their creativity, and their passion for what it is, the ego is highly attached to the
Yes.
business. Call it what you want, but I'll just say at this point, it's the ego. And removing that ego to let somebody else do what you do has a big void in it for people. They're like, oh my gosh, somebody else can do what I do. I didn't think that that was the case, right?
Mhm.
Um, and you have this thing in the book called the engagement matrix in the hire the best. And you just mentioned, hey, leave the business for 4 weeks, leave it to somebody else. Once you do that and you see somebody else can do it, you now have what Michael Gerber refers to as, a sustainable business, right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you can just put the systems in place, the SOPs are there, people are following them and it's engaging. So, what are the strategies you recommend for addressing disengagement and ineffective individuals?
Okay. So when you have disengaged employees, a lot of small business owners, especially, but you see this also in larger corporations, that you just feel like you need somebody to get some work done, and you know this individual does not put their heart into it, but you tolerate it because it's such a pain to go hire and train, and it feels like a huge uphill battle to get somebody else in that seat, so you just hang on to this person. Well, disengaged employees, they're kind of like a cancer in the business because their lack of motivation will drive A players away. And so once you understand that when you allow disengaged team members to stay disengaged, it's like spraying A player repellent all over your business. You won't be able to hire and keep A players. Then there's a motivation to do something about it. And so the very first thing to do is when you see someone slipping from highly engaged to not so engaged, to have a coaching conversation and share that observation with them and put it in very specific behavioral terms. Hey, this is what I've noticed the last few weeks. You're
Mhm.
showing up late, you're leaving early. You used to be the first person in the parking lot. What's going on with you? And just be curious and see what they have to say. A lot of times when you have an A player, who starts to disengage, it's a symptom of them not working from their strengths. So when you can align A players in the business where they get to work from their strengths, that's a huge driver for engagement.
Mhm.
And so that is the very first step is a coaching conversation around that.
So, one of the things you mention in the book is that A players are rarely unemployed, and I would agree with that. What innovation strategies beyond traditional job postings on LinkedIn and all these places where people can post can entrepreneurs use to proactively network and build a pipeline of top talent? Now, building that pipeline is one thing. I'm real interested to see what you have to say because if they're not unemployed very long, how do I keep a pipeline of them other than I'm offering them a better job or part of the business or some kind of motivation to actually want to come to work for me?
So this is a mindset shift that we need to make as small business owners. And the thing to think about is when we are marketing and we are being effective in our marketing and we are attracting our top clients and customers, it's because we've gotten into their headspace and their heart space. We are able to convey how our business meets a need for them. And
Mhm.
it's an important and urgent need for them. Well, we need to do the same thing to attract A players to our businesses. So we need to think about what is going on in my company that makes it attractive to A players and share that in all the places where A players hang out. And so I'll just give an example. What it means to have a full pipeline is when you have people approaching you saying, "I heard how wonderful it is to work for you.
Mhm.
Do you have an opening? I would love to apply." My standard response is, "I will happily take your information. I want to have a resume from you. And when we have an opening, I will be reaching out." They are approaching me because they have heard things from other A players about our company that makes it unique. Oftentimes, it's going to be our immutable laws that attract other people. So, Tap the Potential, we have an immutable law, work supports life, not the other way around. I was at a book club discussion a few weeks ago, and I shared a little bit about work supports life and what that looks like at Tap the Potential. And I had two people approach me as I was walking out of that book club discussion and say, "Hey, if you ever have an opening, here's my information. I would love the opportunity to be considered." And so it's really understanding what is important to the A players that you want to attract and building your company in that direction.
Yeah, and the fact that you're able to attract them during a meeting like that, says a lot about you. Obviously, you were the speaker and you were speaking on one of your
Oh, no,
books.
I
Was
wasn't.
there?
I
Oh.
was a participant in the book
Oh,
club, and I
okay,
just,
okay.
in the conversation, mentioned a couple of statements.
Okay, well, cool. Well, I think that's also, um, very important when entrepreneurs realize that their presence and their energy that they hold where they go is so important for people to pick up on that positive energy,
Mhm.
and that it's, how do you want to say it? It's just, it's inclusive, right? They're very inclusive. So, one of the things that you discuss, and I'm going to switch back and forth here between the two books because it is, I think they play off of one another so well. Um, you you have this idea around the 4-week vacation mindset. It involves asking some powerful questions to shift perspective. I've always said that, if you took a picture of me and I had the picture right up to my nose, I wouldn't be able to tell who I was. And then when I moved this picture back and I could get focus. But I think many entrepreneurs are running so fast that it's such a blur that they can't even see who they are. They're just moving at 100 miles an hour, do the next, the next, the next, the next. And so they never really get to know or understand what it is that they love, their passions are, right? And so my question for you is, how do you help shift that perspective and get them feeling from being stuck and overwhelmed into being comfortable and really being able to see a vision of what their passions are, what their purpose is, what their life value is?
That is such a good question, and this is really what we have been tackling in the last couple of years at Tap the Potential because we recognize that so many of the business owners that come into our Better Business, Better Life program are in survival mode. And when we're in survival mode, our higher level thinking isn't even engaged. And so, as entrepreneurs, we have all these decisions that we're making daily. And if we're making decisions from the perspective of just surviving, we are not making decisions that move us closer to a vision, much less like we haven't even given thought necessarily to a vision. And so at Tap the Potential, one of the things that we guarantee our business owners is when you come into our program, it's a 12-month program, you give us 5 hours a week,
Mhm.
and you will be at a point within 12 months where you will have more profit and more time for what matters most. Plus, you'll be able to take a 4-week vacation. And we are working systematically in those 5 hours a week with the business owner to manage time and get the things off of that business owner's plate that can be competently handled by others in the business to start to free up that mental space because that's what we have to do. And so we start really small. A lot of times, the business owners coming in have not ever taken a weekend off fully unplugged. And so that might be where we start and just say, "Hey, take 2 days off fully unplugged over this next weekend." And then you come back, and all of a sudden, just that little bit of breathing room creates that feeling of, "That feels really good. I would like more of that." And so we start building from there.
How do
And
you help them, Sabrina? How do you help them reach? I just did a interview not long ago with Dr. Jim Lohr, a performance psychologist, and you know, he was the Human Performance Institute he founded that was bought out by Johnson and Johnson, and he said something to that. This new book is called Wise Decisions that Jim wrote, and you're talking about decisions here.
Mhm.
How do you help them tap their internal Yoda, as he calls it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, I wrote a book on intuition. I think intuition is one of the strongest things that people have to get in touch with to
Mhm.
better business decisions. But then they have to be discerning
Yes.
about that. So that's my question for you.
Yes. So we help them tap their internal Yoda by asking them powerful questions. And one set of questions that really just gets to the core is, what's gone on recently that you felt that's made you feel proud? And then identifying the values that align with whatever they're sharing. The other side of that question is, what's going on recently that's ticked you off?
Hmm.
And then identifying the values that are being violated, because when we're angry, our values have been violated. Those point to the immutable laws for the business owner. And so when we start to articulate what those immutable laws are, those become guideposts for making decisions. Every decision going forward in the business flows around the immutable laws. So, does it support my immutable laws or does it work against my immutable laws? And we are continually bringing these business owners back to what matters most to them. And we start when we kick off coaching, we ask them, it's a year from now and you have an amazing life, an amazing business. What is going on? And so just getting them to start even thinking about possibilities and then moving the needle forward from week to week, small steps forward, taken in a consistent direction, lead to big change over time. So, as we help them and support them in their decision making that aligns with their immutable laws and that aligns with what really matters to them, what makes them excited, and what lights them up, then we start to see that internal compass growing. And the time off is the fertilizer for that internal compass to grow.
Well, you give them a vacation test, is what you call it. And I think for our listeners, this would be valuable. It's almost like you're preparing them for the vacation.
Mhm.
Could you explain what these are
Yes.
and what are the crucial steps in preparing an entrepreneur for a 4-week unplugged break? Because, you know, we all take breaks, but I'm not certain we all take 4 weeks at a time,
4 weeks.
or even at a week at a time, but totally unplugged from the phone and the internet and everything.
Yes. Yeah. So this is not a vacation where you have access to your laptop on the beach. This is totally unplugged. And so it starts with the question of, what's the longest you've been able to be away from your business fully unplugged? And for a lot of business owners, that's never. Like, we're on 24/7 with our phones. And so the smallest might be one evening. Just tell your team and your customers your day ends at such and such time. And if they're reaching out, you will get back to them the next business day. So that's a small step. And then we just try to work from there, getting to the point of, like, maybe it's 3 days that you're going to take off fully unplugged. You look at, okay, what wouldn't get done in my absence? What are the things that are going to fall through the cracks? And then develop systems around that and identify who in the business can handle those things in your absence and train that person.
Mhm.
So then you do your 3 days, and that's your test. You come back and you look at what went well, what didn't go well, what fell through the cracks in those 3 days. That becomes what you systematize for the next time and what you delegate better for the next time. And then maybe the next vacation is a full week off, fully unplugged. And you do that, sometime in the next 4 to 5 weeks. and you do the same process. And so we're just gradually increasing. We go from 1 week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks and so on. We're gradually increasing the length of time you're able to be away from the business. But it all, and you said it so beautifully that how to hire the best and the 4 week vacation play together nicely. They do, they support each other. You have to know how to hire A players to be able to do this. And so knowing how to hire the best supports you in building a company that is sustainable, that doesn't require your day-to-day presence for it to run.
Well, you obviously it's a very complementary editions of these two books, right? So, and one of the things I'd like to look at here and kind of wrapping up our interview is as you get people moving from grinding it out to, work supports life, right? Um, you have to be speaking about the legacy we want to make and the lasting legacy, whether it's our charitable work or to our grandchildren or whatever, but ultimately the broader impact that somebody wants to make through the work they do. I mean, these huge companies that become gigantic like Apple, there's got to be more to it than just becoming $1 trillion company. What other impact am I going to have on the world and who am I going to support and what can I do? How do you get these smaller business owners to think in more of a legacy versus think in more of grinding it out versus work supports life?
So one of the things to be aware of when it comes to creating legacy, a lot of times we think big grand visions like
Right.
Apple and
Right.
and that sort of thing. Let's start with what's in our immediate realm.
Uh-huh.
Being emotionally present with another human being is the greatest gift we can give them. Just stopping and listening to someone, conveying with your entire body language, with your phone put away, no beeps and things going off while you're having a conversation with someone. Try that with someone this evening that you care about and experience what it's like to be fully emotionally present. That is the legacy that you're going to leave, is when you get fully emotionally present with yourself and with others, you will start to discover what your legacy is. But that can't happen until we slow down and turn off the phones and unplug and reconnect with each other.
Well, and I think it's making also too, we didn't mention it here, but more of a deep spiritual connection. Something that there's something always greater than ourselves. I don't care if you're if you practice Judaism or Muslim or Christian or whatever. The reality is it is something greater, and taking this time allows you to tap into a source that allows you to then look at a much bigger picture from a spiritual standpoint because the question is what are your beliefs and thoughts around your finitude, your mortality. When you leave here, you're not taking that big pile of money with you, you're not taking that big mansion with you. So having a good plan and having Dr. Starling help you would be a good way to go about it. Now, you mentioned before we came on the air and started to record this was a tapthepotential.com/10K.
Yes.
Um, and there's also an assessment. So I want us to finish up this interview with those two things. What are you offering this listening audience? And how do they go about it? I guess it's www.tapthepotential.com/10K.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so that is our chart of $10,000 an hour activities, and that is the exact chart that I created for myself when I was completely overwhelmed. I wanted to see the difference between a $10 an hour activity, a $100 and a $1,000 and a $10,000 an hour activity. And so I printed that chart out, I laminated it, I put it behind my computer screen, I hung it on my wall so my eye would hit it regularly, and so I would find myself looking up after a couple of hours of work, and I would ask myself, "Was I just doing $10,000 an hour activity?" And oftentimes the answer was no. So it created this immediate self-accountability to focus on my higher value work, at least for an hour or 2 each day. There's no way that you can start off and do 40 hours a week of $10,000 an hour activity. That just doesn't happen, but aim for 1 to 2 hours a day. and it makes a massive change in a small period of time in your business. So you can get this chart at tapthepotential.com/10K.
Awesome.
If you have team members, it's also a great resource to share with them to get them thinking about what is their $10,000 an hour time. And then on the website, we also have our Better Business, Better Life assessment, which is a tool for you to assess your current level of burnout as an entrepreneur and which systems could you put in place in your business that would impact the business, increase its profitability and sustainability, and improve your quality of life. So when you take our Better Business, Better Life assessment, you learn where your level of burnout is. You also learn what your $10,000 an hour activity is specific to your business at this point in time based on your level of burnout. So you can take that assessment at tapthepotential.com. There's a link on our homepage to take
And
it.
there's a button there also to book a consult. And I would
Yes.
presume the consult, is it with you? Is it with one of your people? How
It's
does
with
that work?
Caitlin, who is our success team lead, and she's also our how to hire the best strategist on the team. So
And
she will debrief. She'll meet with you if you've taken the assessment. She'll debrief it with you, and she'll talk with you about where you are in your business, what your challenges are, and if our offerings are a good fit to serve you.
so there's an awesome resource for all of you out there. One, there's an assessment. There's a button that we'll put links to all this for a consult after you've taken the assessment. There's also this downloadable PDF that you can get at tapthepotential.com/1010K. You can get that there too. And I really would encourage you to reach out to Dr. Starling because she really has created a program and also the links to the books. We're putting links in the show notes below to both of these books. Do pick up one and or both of the books because they do complement one another and the programs that she's offering. Whether you take her programs or not, you're going to learn a lot from it. So, hey, I appreciate you, Dr. Starling, coming on Inside Personal Growth, speaking with our listening audience today about really this 4-week vacation and how to hire the best. They're awesome books, and I think just even little tips that people can take from this podcast or they can take from your books will help them improve, as you say, looking for A players, right? And taking quality time off for yourself to disengage from the phone and the computers and whatever and tap into that potential that's there. Because otherwise, if you keep running with your nose against your face and you can't see your picture of yourself, you're literally just grinding it out.
Yes.
Any final words from you?
I want to thank our listeners for investing their time here with us. And I just want to acknowledge this is $10,000 an hour activity for you. And I hope we've created some mindset shifts for you.
We certainly have. Well, namaste to you. Thank you for being on Inside Personal Growth, and thanks for sharing your wisdom and knowledge with our listeners.